Hey, it's Dr. John Terry, and welcome to this installment of Tune Into Sales. You know, all of us here at Legacy Marketing Group enjoy the opportunity to bring in some incredible men and women into this podcast to have an opportunity to tell their story and how they're making a difference. And today is no exception. I'm honored to have in the studio with me today a gentleman I've got to learn to know and, more importantly, to admire as I've watched him on his own personal growth journey to daily become a better version of who he is and what he does. And he's now become a fantastic financial professional that is serving the needs of his community at a very, very high level. So I want to welcome to the podcast today, Mr. Ben Green. Ben, welcome in. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely, John. First off, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be on and talking to you yet again. So my name's Ben Green, originally from Columbia, South Carolina, and got my undergrad at Morehouse College in finance. Got an MBA from the University of South Carolina several years after that, and I started my journey really kind of in sales and also working for the state of South Carolina, recruiting companies in South Carolina. And about 16 years ago, my brother asked a question around health insurance for him and some buddies at his bar, and that led us to opening up an insurance brokerage. And we kind of went from health insurance to Medicare to Social Security planning, some annuities, and folks asked us around about IRA rollovers, and we decided to form a second firm in 2022 that started ready to retire. So we focus on holistic planning, John. So folks that are typically 57 years old, say to up to about 75 years old, that have questions around IRAs, 401ks, what to do with their TSP, and then also maybe questions on Medicare. When should I take my Social Security? Do I need long-term care? How about estate planning? And so we've put this entire practice together to make sure that folks can get a full comprehensive plan in place for retirement.
Fantastic. I love that. And I want to make sure we got that out into the audience so everybody knew what you did for a living. So thank you for what you do. And Ben, I know when I had an opportunity to interview you at our Legacy Honors Conference, and by the way, congratulations on the opportunity to be one of the elite producers at that event. You
Thank
talked
you.
about your passion for the African American community in particular. And so I really want to open with the question, what are some of the specific and unique financial challenges that we're seeing in the underserved African American community, and why is that important?
Yeah, John. So I think that a lot of folks, a lot of Americans just in general have been taught to sort of, bootstrap everything on their own. And that's no different in the Black community where, we were taught to, you got to do it all on your own and you got to work really hard, but you may have to do everything on your own. And that has been sort of an emphasis that we're trying to de-emphasize going forward and just let everyone know that it's okay to ask for help. For example, I do not change my own oil on my car, as an example, and so I go to experts for that, right? I don't do I've had one surgery before. I didn't watch YouTube and then kind of figure out how to do the surgery on my own. I went to a doctor that had been trained for over almost 2 decades to do that, and it's the same thing when it comes to financial planning. So I think that the first big thing is making sure that people know that it's okay to ask for help and seek expert guidance when it comes to financial planning, Medicare, annuities, IRA rollovers, and more. The second big challenge has been that there has been some mistrust that's built up in the Black community over the last, let's say, 50, 60, 70 years when it comes to financial services or the occasional bad experience with an insurance company where someone heard something about what happened to their grandma or their dad or their cousin. And so folks once again sort of retreat a little bit inside and try to do things potentially on their own without seeking reputable companies and reputable professional advisors to work with.
So Ben, do you find that part of that too is a lack of financial education? Because if you think about it, when we went to school, regardless of what state we lived in, they didn't teach us much about money. So do you think a lot of that is just a lack of understanding of how money works and how people can actually make money work for them?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And John, just on a personal level, inside my nuclear family, my mom and dad, my brother, we did not talk about retirement. We did not talk about, so mom, dad, what are you going to do when it comes to Social Security? When you turn 65, as an example, we did not talk about really like things like budgeting as an example. And so I think absolutely for just all Americans, financial literacy is probably the biggest issue right now. And so from our standpoint at Ready to Retire, we try to educate first before we do any sort of organization and implementation for our clients.
That's fantastic. I guess I grew up in the oddball family because my uncle was a CPA. And so from the time I was a little kid, mom and dad taught me budgeting and they taught me a number of just, basic financial things that when I try to talk to other kids about it at school, they're like, so what? It's let's go play football or let's go play basketball or, let's go to the movies. Nobody was thinking about their financial future. And that's all too common for far too many of us in this day and age. And that's a big deal. But yeah.
Absolutely. And kind of paying it forward, of course. We, of course, provide a tremendous amount of education to the general community.
Mhm.
We target, folks that are 57 to about 75 years old. But me on a personal level, of course, I've been doing mentoring when it comes to financial literacy. And then my 6 and 10-year-old daughters, they know what I do. They actually listen in on some of the conversations. If it's not a confidential type of situation, they've been to some of my seminars. They've heard webinars, and they have life insurance plans. They have their own little stock account. Where my daughter actually brought up potentially writing a book this year with me on
Fantastic.
children's financial literacy, and so I'm really trying to make sure they know
Yeah.
everything there is to know about financial literacy and retirement and investments.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that. You had an opportunity to meet my granddaughter
Yes.
when I brought her to the Boom Conference, where I had an opportunity to keynote that event. And at the age of 12, she's now telling me, I want to be an insurance agent when I grew up. And that transformed her life and allowed her at the age of 12 to see something that other kids her age haven't seen or even thought of. And so thank you for doing that with your kids. Now, Ben, as we kind of go down this journey a little bit, and you think about your background, how has your background really prepared you for what you're doing today when it comes to this holistic financial planning approach? What did that journey look like for you?
So that journey started really at Morehouse when I was in my junior year, really figuring out that I wanted to do business and then really focus on finance. Just had a passion for it after originally starting out in biology, quite frankly, being wanted to be a doctor. Now I'm a financial doctor, if you will, and so that was sort of the fundamental beginning of the journey, and then from there even when I was working overseas, I was always studying stocks, trading stocks, looking at bonds and just studying international markets as well as the U.S. domestic market. So I had a tremendous interest there. When my brother came to me with this opportunity in 2010 that he didn't really know was an opportunity to start an insurance brokerage, we kind of started out with that the risk management side as well. So I have the entrepreneurial side, of course, have the financial background, but we also have I had a tremendous risk management background, if you will. And so when we added the investment side, we decided to combine the all of those skills under one house, if you will, under one roof, along with the Medicare, the long-term care, the estate planning, to bring a full, comprehensive experience to our clients.
That's fantastic. So Ben, I know when people walk in your office, oftentimes they're skeptical because many people have either had a bad experience, as you said earlier, or they've heard something, or there's a ton of myths that are floating around about the financial services industry as a whole. And sometimes we get the reputation, like it or not, that we're no better than used car salesmen. I like the holistic approach because when you take that consultative approach, it elevates you and the way you're seen by your clients as not just trying to sell them a product, but understanding who they are, what their specific needs are, and how you help them achieve their goals and objectives. But in that process, do you find there's some things that help you build trust and rapport with your clients that helps them feel more comfortable in working with you? And what does that look like?
Absolutely. So I tell folks that we were accidentally holistic. So I started out in health insurance. Did not want to touch Medicare, quite frankly, John, for about a 6 or 7 year period until we just kept getting so many requests from people to help out with Medicare because it's quite confusing. And then that actually pulled us into doing the Social Security and the IRA rollovers and the full
Interesting.
holistic
Yeah.
process. And so
Yeah.
to provide even more trust to folks, I made sure that I got credentialed And so, of course, had the health insurance, life insurance license. I now have the Series 65. I'm a certified financial fiduciary, and I have an additional 5 or 6 designations. And so I wanted to make sure that folks fully understood that I was trying to be the best in the country at this. And then beyond that, my first client was my mom back in 1999 when she got an amicable divorce from my dad, and she did not have any of this base of retirement planning in place. And so that folks typically hear the story of my mom and everything we put in place for her. And the bottom line is that she now has nothing to worry about when it comes to finances. She's not Elon Musk, but she's doing totally fine. She does not have to worry about her income and any of the other portions. And so we like to put people in the same position as we put my mom in. And I think that resonates a tremendous amount.
Yeah, 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 that's funny because my parents were some of my first clients. And one of the things that my mom told me after she signed on the bottom line is she says, I expect you to treat every single person you engage with just
Mm.
like they're me.
Hmm.
And I think if we all live that way and try to do for other clients what we would do for our own family, the industry would be an even better place than it already is.
Absolutely. And then the other thing that we have done is we've been operating continuously since 2010 as an independent group and now
Yeah,
independent fiduciary group with all the investments as well. And so showing up every day, every year, and providing that consistency really helps folks understand that we're not going anywhere. In fact, we're only growing. And so I think over the last 2 or 3 years, people that saw me maybe 2 years ago, they're actually now coming in because they understand that we're not going anywhere at all. In fact, we're strengthening.
absolutely. Longevity is a big thing because it shows consistency and the fact that you are delivering results for your clients, which is exciting. Now, Ben, you had mentioned earlier on in the podcast financial literacy. And as we think about financial literacy, there's a lot of topics that people struggle to understand. Is there one specific topic or a couple of topics in this financial literacy world, or illiteracy, as I guess we'd call it, because they don't know what they don't know? What really stands out as some of the problem areas that you're running into that people have questions about?
So the biggest challenge is helping people to understand that a 401k or a TSP or a 457 or 403b is a product and not a plan. Those are products. 401k, if you have a 401k, that's great. If you have a Roth IRA, that is wonderful. If you have mutual funds or ETFs, that's great, but that does not make a full, comprehensive, holistic plan that's going to guide you through retirement for the next 20 or 30 years. And
Mhm.
so getting that concept across is probably the most important piece we can provide to folks.
Absolutely. So when you're working with the African American community in particular, do you find there's a best practice for engaging with them? Is it more workshop oriented? Do they respond more to seminars, webinars, one-on-ones? What do you find is a good approach if someone wants to engage more and really try to serve that African American community as you are? Where's the best place to get started?
Yeah, John, so I think that it's the answer is sort of all the above. So we do a lot of webinars. That's probably about 85% of our activity, our marketing activity, if you will.
Mhm.
We do a couple of seminars every year. We're showing up more on social media. And then I think also, kind of showing up at places like churches, for example, or at that, sorority meetings, fraternity meetings, as an example, as well. And then, of course, a lot of our clients come in through referrals from current clients, actually. So kind of we're trying to show up at all of the places you can show up to find people where they are. And then we also try to provide different types of education. And so once again, along the holistic planning side, we're
Mhm.
going to talk about the long-term care. We're going to talk about kind of life insurance 101. We're going to talk about estate planning. We do seminars on that. We're doing seminars on Social Security planning. And so we're showing up in different areas, talking about different topics to kind of appeal to a broad range of folks because everybody has customized needs that may suit them and it may not be good for even their neighbor or their brother or sister. And so showing up in all those places and providing all these different types of entry points to us is really important.
So do you find that education really is kind of a differentiator for you in being able to help people understand, number one, what they have, number two, how it works, and number three, is it really helping them achieve a goal or an objective that they've envisioned? Do you see that education really works in that arena to help put the pieces together?
Yeah, absolutely. And we typically do webinars about once a week, once or twice a week actually. And of course, folks will come in and we'll have individual conversations with them, and then we may start engaging them as clients. But even once they get signed up and we kind of put their plans in place, we organize, we educate, organize, and implement their plans. We of course meet with them once every 6 months. But even after that, a year, 2 years later, we have clients that will join our other webinars to get more education about long-term care. Or maybe they didn't have all the information about IRMA, as an example, or other Medicare nuances. And so, for example, I had one last night. We had one on RMDs and Roths and sort of taxation optimization. And a client from a year and a half ago, she signed up to talk about her RMD planning, because she's a little bit ahead of herself right now. But the bottom line is that we want to provide that education and provide peace of mind so the folks can have that full plan for retirement.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying there, Ben, and the fact that you're educating existing clients on things they don't know. And as a result of that, they're coming back to you because they see that you are more than just that one piece of the puzzle that you solve for them. And that ability to come back and get some more education and learn some more and learn some more, that's how they learn and grow. That's how you add value. But it continues to open up more opportunity for you. How does that feed also into referrals for you?
Yep. So we've had multiple new clients come in because their friend was a current client, and then their friend said, "Hey, you really do need to check out these educational webinars and seminars that Ready to Retire provides." So they watch them for 2, 3, 4 months, and they hear a consistent message. They hear a message. They get lots of different types of education actually on their potential retirement topics that they want to cover, and then they come on in and they book a time to talk with us. And so we truly do lead with education. We truly believe that, and we do want to have our clients fully educated before we put their plans in place. And then it's also really important, John, for the next generation, right? So if you're 60 or 65 years old, like your granddaughter, of course you have your children, but then you also have your grandchildren. You so depthly started educating so early, and that is a tremendous gift to your granddaughter to have brought her to the conference. I'm going to be doing that with my daughters in another year or two.
Excellent.
Um, and that so educating, granddad,
Mhm.
educating the children, and then also the grandchildren, that's how wealth is built, and that's how black wealth can be built. And that's part of the reason I wrote the book, Building Black Wealth, because we want to make sure we educate from top to bottom, and we empower people from top to bottom. And that applies to all Americans, not just black Americans.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about the book. Yeah.
So it is a top to bottom. I have it right here, top to bottom, 43 chapters covering annuities, covering Social Security, long-term care, life insurance, precious. I think I have precious metals a bit in there. Everything from top to bottom when it comes to thinking about aspects of retirement, taxes, how to pick your employee benefits, and maybe how to take advantage of your 401k at your job, because that's a really big part, of course, of building that wealth and accumulating wealth over time until you get to the preservation and distribution stage that we specialize in. All of those things are important, so we put them all in the book, and hopefully we'll have another book coming out towards the end of this year that will expand on these topics and provide an even more comprehensive retirement sort of view.
Absolutely. So Ben, I've authored several books, and I'm excited to see this book out for you, and I know more to follow, because the book gives you credibility, and that's something I want to make sure our audience doesn't miss. And the fact that you are now a published author,
Yes.
and when individuals walk into your office, they can see the book that you published, and you may present them a copy of that book, and that becomes your business card to have an opportunity to introduce people to who you are and what you do. I remember an advisor I worked with several years ago in Texas. I got him to work on a book. And when he would do a workshop, everybody in his workshop got a copy of the book. And he would say, and his was a little short book. It was 14 chapters. He said, "These are the 14 things I can do for you." And I was amazed when people would come back in his office 2 or 3 months later and say, "I want to do chapter 7 or I want to do chapter 4." And as a result of that, they're like, "Oh my goodness, this book built credibility and saying, these are the things that I do for you." And then he would essentially, at the end of the workshop, he would say, "Thank you for coming. Got an opportunity to go through the book. If you find something here that I can help you implement, let's have a conversation." And that led to him building an incredible practice. And so I applaud you for doing that. And I hope more advisors will think about the fact that every single one of us, we've got a book up here in our head. And it's a matter of getting what's in our head onto paper and getting it printed. And the process today is so much easier than it was years ago. I remember publishing my first book and going through the traditional publishing route back in 1993, I believe it was. And today, Amazon, Barnes and Noble have made it so easy to publish a book that it becomes an incredible credibility tool. So I applaud you for doing that.
Well, and of course, you have been a tremendous inspiration in writing more books, right? Frankly, and I absolutely wanted to emphasize that the book is part of our process, of course, because we of course
Fantastic.
have it. We show the website so they can go and learn more. They can listen to the first chapter as well through audio, and everyone, almost every prospect that I talk to, okay, almost every potential client that I talk to, when we after we've had our first meeting, if they sound like they may be interested and they want to go further and get organized and maybe take a look at implementation, we typically send them the book, John.
Yeah.
We send the book out to them and kind of give them about a week or so to just go through. And what I tell them is it is written so that you can kind of flip through and find what you may be most interested in or you may have more questions about.
Hmm.
And you can flip through and figure out if there's anything you've missed as you were thinking about your retirement so that next time when we do meet, you can bring those topics up or you can send me an email beforehand so we can be ready to address that as well. So absolutely the book has been a very large part of the process and a very large part of the education.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the gentleman that inspired me to write my first book. He said, business cards get looked at and then probably get tossed in the trash. He said, a book gets looked at and it gets put on the coffee table and it eventually gets read. And that to me was very, very powerful. And that was back in the early 1990s when I was just even giving early consideration to the power of a book. And having had an opportunity to have some of my books go international, it's a big deal to be able to do that. So I want to pivot back to our conversation where we started earlier, because your focus is the African American community, and I love that. So where do you see the African American financial landscape maybe shifting over the next few years? I know some of them are going to be participating in this great wealth transfer that's taking place. But where do you see that landscape shifting, and where's the opportunity for other financial advisors that may want to do like you do and serve the African American community? What do they need to look for? Or maybe they want to serve the Asian or the Hispanic or some other ethnic group. Are there some specific things and guidance that you can give them?
And to be clear, we serve everybody. But what I identified kind of early on, especially as I was doing the webinar, is that I had a lot of African Americans coming in to talk with me, and actually a lot of women, a lot of African American women that wanted to get their finances straight. They wanted to get the next phase of preservation and hopefully successful distribution and hopefully not running out of money, right, by utilizing all different types of solutions and not just the
Right.
mutual funds and ETFs. So, utilizing annuities, utilizing potentially structured notes as an example, utilizing all different types of solutions that may or may not be appropriate for them. We at least wanted to educate them on that. And so I think the key for everyone, whether it's the potential client or if it's the advisor, is that education first off, being education focused. Here are the different options. Here, based on this fiduciary responsibility that I have, here are the options that I would recommend or my team would recommend. And then here is sort of the holistic view of how it all looks for you over the next 20, 25 years, God willing. So I
Absolutely.
think, once again, focusing on education, focusing on ideally having that fiduciary designation, whether you become on the advisor side, a certified financial fiduciary, or you become an investment advisor representative, as I just became back in May here, or if you are, if whatever fiduciary designation you have, I think focusing on that and truly serving clients' best interest at all times is going to serve the advisors well. And I think educating the general public in general about that fiduciary duty versus kind of what you call I guess the broker dealers, where they may not have to fully have your best interest at heart, and they may not provide that full holistic service when it comes to the long-term care, the life insurance, the Medicare help, Social Security strategies, Roth conversion strategies, and all those other things. I think that's really going to be the key for all of us going forward over the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing a big shift. I saw a study just the other day that said we're seeing a big shift from, accumulating. And if you think about it, most folks, as they get into their late 50s, early 60s, they spent the last 30, 40 years of their lives accumulating wealth. And that wealth is going to provide their paycheck in retirement once they retire, because there's no longer an employer writing them a paycheck. They're writing their own paycheck out of the money they've saved and what they're going to get from Social Security. So that type of planning that you're talking about, being able to serve their needs and connect all the dots to make sure that things don't happen to them, is so, so important. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. And of course, in the age of AI and Chat GPT and Claude, I think it's very easy for folks to think that they can do it themselves, as we talked about
Mhm.
in the beginning. I can go on YouTube and watch some videos. I can go to chat and have chat put together a plan for me. But as you well know, because you're an AI expert, actually, I've learned tremendously from you when it comes to AI. Actually, uh, you have to know what questions to ask AI to provide the best advice, right, and the best results. And
Yeah.
so it's very dangerous actually now, because we have this technology that you think where folks think they can put it all together on their own. But when it comes to putting together your personal pension plan, or your 240-month paycheck plan, or your 360-month paycheck plan, or my granddad, he retired at age 65. He made it to age 99. So that was 408 months that he had to put together his own personal pension. Um, when it comes to putting that together and also stringing in the long-term care, the Medicare, the Social Security, you're going to need to have a person. You're going to need to have a man or a woman in the loop to tie it all together, as you said, and provide that guide and that guidance all the way through the process.
Yeah, and absolutely. And AI is brilliant in bringing you facts and figures, but AI can't deliver common sense. It can't deliver creativity. It can't deliver innovation, because those are things that are uniquely human. And that's what we bring to this financial planning world that you live in as a holistic planner. So, as we wrap up today, Ben, I want to leave you with one last question. And if you could give one piece of advice to any insurance agent, any financial professional that's listening to today's podcast, and maybe they're saying, how do I have an opportunity to make a bigger impact, or to have the opportunity to influence more lives and help people enjoy the life they've always dreamed of once they retire? If you could give them one piece of advice and one action step they could take, what does that look like?
John, I'm going to give them three if that's okay. So,
That's fine. You go at it. Yes, sir.
become a fiduciary. So make sure you can say that you're a fiduciary,
Mhm.
right? Write a book, as you've told many folks, and you've inspired me actually to write more books. Write a book, just put it down, right? And then become holistic in your planning.
I think those are great. Yeah. You know, taking care of the client, serving the client's interest, and putting those first and foremost. That's our obligation. Whether we have the fiduciary title or not, that's our obligation, is to take care of the people that are looking to us to hold their hand and guide them on the journey. We're the Sherpas, helping them climb their Mount Everest to be able to get to the mountaintop and see that incredible view they dreamed up from working for the last 30 or 40 years. And then on the way down, be able to enjoy the journey. And then again, write the book. I love it. And the fact that you're now establishing what's in your head and becoming an authority figure that's seen and recognized. And then number three, having the opportunity was what? Number three?
Being holistic in your
Being
planning.
holistic in your
And if you
exactly.
do not have the expertise in Medicare or long-term care or estate planning, for example, you can copy what we've done essentially, which is we put together a team. So it's just not me. It's really, I have about 60 or 70 people actually I can call on. Typically about 7 or 8 people will be engaging with the client at one point in the process, but we have a team that does the investments, a team that brings in the structured notes, a
Mhm.
team that is expert on annuities or life insurance, long-term care, estate planning, and that's how you can provide that holistic process.
That's fantastic. I remember growing up, my uncle told me you can't be a one-trick pony and you can't be the Lone Ranger and be successful. You've got to put people around you and utilize their expertise. So thank you for sharing that. So, Ben, any final comments as we wrap up today? Anything else that you want to share before we wind this episode down and put it in the can and get ready to go back to the rest of our day?
I'm thrilled once again to be here. Thrilled to continue to work with Legacy and all other really fine annuity and kind of custom retirement product makers. And we look forward to serving folks for the next 100 years, God willing.
Absolutely. Well, Ben, thank you so much for being on the show with us today. I always enjoy watching you on your journey and looking forward to the next year's Boom Conference to see if you're going to have an opportunity to take that coveted first slot and have an opportunity to award you with something really special at that event. And in the interim, thank you for what you're doing to serve your clients with integrity and with honesty and with truth. I appreciate you doing that and helping them achieve their goals and objectives. And for all of you that are listening to the podcast, thank you for joining me. And on behalf of all of us here at Legacy, I'm Dr. John Terry. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day.